Okay, my name's John Whitehouse. I'm the chair for the meeting. I'm joined by councillors Darshan Sunga and Tim Matthews. We'll introduce the other people here shortly. There's one or two formal bits to get through, and then we'll come to your application. So I need to tell people that this meeting, apart from the excluded bits, will be broadcast live on the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. And if you're seated down here, it's likely the recording cameras will capture your image. So if you want to avoid that, you need to move upstairs. But if we've got no members of the public, that's not really relevant. Do we got any apologies for absence?
No apologies, Chairman.
Okay. I'll just ask members to note the procedure on pages 5 to 12. And noted. Okay. And now we're going to agree to exclude the press and public to consider the Hackney carriage driver's licence. So, is everyone excluded? Webcast is off, yes? Okay, is everyone ready? Yes. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is read out the webcasting announcement and then I'll introduce everyone. So this meeting is to be webcast, so you're reminded of the need to activate your microphone, which is a little button in front of you before speaking, and then turn it off, please, when you've finished speaking. I'd like to remind everyone present this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing or another use by third parties. If you're seated down here, it's likely the recording camera will capture your image and therefore your image will become part of the broadcast. To avoid this, you should move to the upper public gallery. Obviously that doesn't apply to participants because we need you down here. So my name's John Whitehouse. I'm the councillor who's chairing the meeting. And I'll just ask other people to introduce themselves and what their function is.
I'm David Stocker. I'm part of the Licence Committee.
I'm Councillor Tim Matthews, also a member of the Licence Committee.
Okay, on the left.
I'm Rosalind Frere, I'm the legal advisor.
Hi, I'm Jackie Leather. I'm Democratic Services, just taking the minutes.
Darshan Sunga is just leaving because he's another councillor who just sat on the previous panel. And if you can introduce yourselves down there.
Hi, I'm Debbie Horton. I'm a licensing officer.
And Peter Jones, licensing officer for this case.
And finally, we've got our colleague in charge of webcasting. Right. So what I'm going to ask in a minute is we'll have the case introduced by the licensing officer. You will have a chance to tell us why you think your licence should be granted. We'll then ask you any questions that we want to ask, to which you will respond. We don't have any objectors or people here, so there's nothing they can say, but we'll take into account what they've said in writing. Once we've asked our questions, you can make a closing statement. We'll then go ask you to leave while we discuss the application, and then you're able to return and hear what we've decided, or if you need to go off, that's fine, and we'll write to you with the decision. So I hope that's clear. And if you can put your microphone on and tell us why you think your application should be granted, please. Oh, sorry, I did this twice in a row. First of all, we'll ask the licensing officer to to introduce the application.
Thank you, Chair. This application was previously listed for the 6th of December 22, but it was adjourned as no party was present to represent the applicant on that date. And today we have the applicant present. This is an application for street trading consent under the Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act of 1982. The application is made by El Cafecito Limited and was made on the 3rd of October 22 to operate at the Loughton Club, 8 Station Road, Loughton. The applicant seeks to sell hot and cold drinks, pastries, baked goods and snacks, Mondays to Friday, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m, Saturday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m, and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. A copy of the application is attached to the report. There is no requirement in the legislation to carry out any consultation. However, the authority did notify Essex Police, Essex County Fire and Rescue Service, Environmental Health, Community Resilience and Essex County Council Highways, along with the Loughton Town Council and Ward Councillors. A public notice was also displayed at the site and a copy is attached to the report. We received one representation from Loughton Town Council, which is attached to the report. I'd like to just make you aware that a previous consent at the same location was granted. This permitted the sale of hot food and drink Monday to Saturday, 12 noon till 9 p.m, and Sundays, 12 noon to 8 p.m. This trader sought not to renew, and that consent expired on the 5th of April last year. My report details a little bit more about that application and that the conditions that are automatically applied to any street trading consent. The decisions for you today are whether to grant the consent as applied for, grant it with any additional conditions you feel appropriate, or to refuse the application. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks very much for that. Now it's your chance to tell us why you think that
Okay,
application should be
thanks.
granted.
Reading through the objections, I don't think they are relevant to us. Objections of cooking odours. We would have a small oven which would cook frozen baked goods, which don't really create any real smells. We won't be frying anything. Noise disturbance from engine vehicles or generators. The Loughton Club's going to supply us with power. So there's no generators, there's no vehicle noise. The vehicle's parked there on a permanent basis. So the vehicle wouldn't even be driven there, it would be taken on a lorry. So there would be any noise whatsoever from any engines. There's a concern here of encouraging litter in surrounding areas, but I don't think it was any more likely to encourage littering than any other coffee shop might. We supply bins in the car park, and most of the products will be takeaway coffee cups, which people will then walk away with anyway. So there's no one dwelling in the area, drinking and throwing things on the floor, I would hope. I think that was the main concerns. Operating times, we aim to finish early afternoon anyway, so there's no late night activity. I guess there's a concern here, we're asking for a 7 a.m. start, which is early, but again there's no real noise other than people talking and being in the area.
Okay, thanks very much. Have members got any questions?
Yeah. You say the van is going to be a permanent fixture, so it's not a van that runs, it's got to be towed there and sat.
Yeah, that's correct. It's this old vintage Citroen HY van, which was sat there and hopefully not moved at all.
Yep.
Just regarding the point about litter and putting out bins and appropriate methods of disposing of rubbish, are you actively encouraging your customers to do this, and are you looking at ways of trying to operate your business in an environmentally sensitive manner, that reducing single-use plastics and this kind of stuff, because it's a concern, well, not strictly applicable to the licensing, but a concern of the broader council around sustainability, and it would just be reassuring for the licensing committee to hear your points on that. Thank you.
Sorry. We actually have 3 permanent shops, and we encourage people to sit in normally at our shops and don't have so much takeaway, except for our Stratford shop, which is purely takeaway. We're trying to move to paper cups as opposed to the plastic-based cups. Easier said than done, because you don't actually seem to find them in a true paper form very well. But we've done markets over the years and never really had a problem with litter. We'll supply bins and make signs encouraging people to if they're going to stay there, to once they've drunk the thing, to put it into the bin. But like I said, most of it's takeaway, so we don't have too much control over it. We use small paper bags for pastries and things, but we don't use polystyrene or anything like that.
Okay, the 2 things I was going to ask about. You'll have seen on the agenda that the previous operator at the location had 1 complaint about customers obstructing the public footpath, which was dealt with, but I just wondered what your measures were, just to make sure that the people were able to get up and down the pavement outside the Loughton Club.
I've spoken to Tim at the Loughton Club about this, and I believe the issue was that the vehicle was parked very close to the wall, and therefore people were being served on the street as opposed to inside the car park. So there's an opportunity to change the orientation of the vehicle so it doesn't face the street but actually faces inside the car park, so people have to go into the car park behind the wall. Yeah, I think that was the only issue.
Okay, that sounds good. And you've got the list of standard conditions in the agenda as well, and you're aware of those, and are you happy with all those?
Yes.
Okay. Any more questions from members? Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
I don't think I can add too much more. It's a very basic operation. Like I said, we're not planning to cook, we don't have oil, we don't make any noise. We've got a fair amount of experience in this business, so don't see any real issues with this.
Okay,
Thank you.
well, thanks very much for coming along this afternoon. As I say, we'll now deliberate and make a decision. We'll ask you to wait outside, and as I say, you're welcome to, we'll come and get you when the decision's been made, or if you need to go, feel free to go. Thank you.
see if I can adjust
Right.
that clock.
And then just save it for me there.
Yeah.
We'll fix it up, you know what I mean? Sorry about that.
It's an hour in the front. It's exactly an hour. I don't know why it's almost as if it's gone to British summertime before it should have done, you know?
They haven't changed the clock, that's why.
Well,
Clock
they
hasn't been changed. That clock is wrong.
I know it's wrong. I'm a horologist. I know it's wrong.
That's the whole lot. I'm sorry, I
But that
forgot.
was all right. October. We've been here since October. It's almost, I say, it's gone on the wrong time. Yeah, anyway.
Okay, if everyone's ready and the class is ready. Okay, so I'm going to read out the decision that we made. We treated the application on its own merits, and we took the decision based on the merits of the application and the relevant representations received. And during our deliberations in private, our advisory officers gave us no additional advice. So the decision of the subcommittee is the consent should be granted for the sale of hot and cold drinks, pastries, baked goods and snacks, subject to the following conditions. The standard conditions set out on pages 20 and 21 of the agenda. The trading hours, Monday to Friday, 7 till 4, Saturday, 9 till 3, and Sunday, 10 till 3. A sufficient number of suitable receptacles with properly fitted covers shall be provided for the purpose of receiving rubbish from customers. The receptacles should be maintained in a clean condition and emptied on a daily basis as a minimum when the permitted use is operational. The receptacles should be constructed, maintained and located so access to them by vermin is prevented, and arrangements should be made for regular lawful disposal of their contents by a registered waste carrier. The public area immediately surrounding the premises should be regularly cleared of waste food, food containers, wrapping, etc., and left in a tidy state at the end of trading on each day. Such refuse should be removed from the area and disposed of lawfully by a registered waste carrier. The venue must be situated and operated from the car park of the Loughton Club. And the reasons for those conditions, the conditions related to litter, to prevent the creation of a public nuisance and ensure that waste and litter are collected effectively and legally. The conditions requesting customers not to loiter or obstruct the public footpath is to prevent the creation of a public nuisance. All the conditions mentioned above are considered to be reasonable, relevant, appropriate and proportionate. Once consent has been granted, the local authority can vary any conditions attached to it any time. A consent can be revoked, but the rules of natural justice must be observed by the local authority before a revocation takes place. Obviously, you wouldn't expect it to get to that stage. But thanks very much for coming on this morning, and good luck with your business.
Thank you very much.
Okay, all sitting comfortably? Let's begin. Welcome to the meeting this afternoon. Thanks for coming along. My name's John Whitehouse. I'm the chair of the licensing subcommittee today, and I'm joined by my colleagues. So I'll ask people to introduce themselves, and then we'll just go around the room and ask people to introduce themselves and their function here. So, Councillor Stocker.
I'm Councillor David Stocker. I'm part of the licensing subcommittee.
Hello, I'm Councillor Tim Matthews.
Introduce your mic, please.
Councillor Tim Matthews, also a member of the licensing committee.
On my left.
Rosalind Ferreira, legal advisor.
Jackie Leither, Democratic Services, taking the minutes.
Okay, and if we can start here, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. I'm Andy Newman. I'm the licensing consultant for the applicant.
Good morning. I'm Chris Keane, the owner of Bonamy in Thaden Boyce.
Thank you. Okay, thanks for coming.
Councillor Elizabeth Byrne, Thaden Boyce Parish Council, just observing this morning. Thank you.
Peter Jones, licensing officer.
Debbie Horton, licensing officer.
Councillor Peter Gooch, I'm chairman, Thaden Boyce Parish Council.
Okay, thanks. So the procedure we'll follow is in a moment I'll ask Ms Houghton to introduce the application. The applicant or Mr Newman as a representative will then have an opportunity to present their case as to why the licence should be granted, and then members and the parish council will have an opportunity to ask you any questions. That's not the opportunity for the parish council to make its main case, but just to ask questions on what's been said. We'll then pass over to Mr Gooch to speak on behalf of the parish council, and the applicant or representative has a chance to ask questions to the parish council of what Councillor Gooch has said, and members also can ask questions of the parish council. The parish council can then make a closing statement if it wishes. The applicant can make a closing statement if you wish. We'll then leave to discuss what we've heard and make a decision and come back in here to announce the result. And you can wait and hear the result here, or if you need to get off, that's absolutely fine, and we'll communicate the result to you afterwards. So I hope that's clear, and I'll hand over to Ms Houghton. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Chair. We are here today to determine an application for variation for an existing premises licence under the Licensing Act of 2003. An application has been made by Belgique Thaden Limited, the premises licence holder, for a variation to the existing premises licence at the above premises, which is Bonamy 14 Forest Drive, Thaden Boyce, Epping, Essex, CM 167EY. The authority received the application on the 25th of November 2022. The application sets out the varied licensing activities applied for and times varied requested, a copy of the present licence for the premises, and the application for the variation has been attached to this report. The applicant is requesting to extend the trading hours Monday to Sunday for the following licensable activities: the provision of recorded music, Monday to Sunday, 8 o'clock till 2200 hours, currently Monday to Sunday, 0800 to 18:30. The provision of late night refreshment, Monday to Sunday, 0800 to 2200, and the sale by retail of alcohol, Monday to Sunday, 0800 to 2200, on sales only. Currently, that is Monday to Sunday, 0800 hours to 1800 hours, with on and off sales. When considering an application for a licence, licensing authority must have regard to the promotion of the licensing objectives, and that is the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. It must also have regard to its statement of licensing policy and any guidance issued by the Secretary of State. The responsible authorities received a copy of the application. it was properly advertised at the premises and in a local newspaper. A copy of the newspaper advert and the public notice is attached to this report. All residences and businesses within a 150-metre radius of the premises were individually consulted. The authority has received one representation of objection from Thaden Boyce Parish Council and comments from the Planning Department. The representation relates to the prevention of public nuisance, prevention of crime disorder and the protection of children from harm. In determining this application, the subcommittee may take any of the following steps as it considers necessary for the promotion of the licence objectives, and that is to grant the variation as applied for, to modify the variation submitted, or to reject the whole or part of the application. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. In a moment, I'll ask Mr Newman to speak. Just wanted to let you know we've had 2 supplementary agendas which we've read. Have the parish council seen the 2 supplementaries? It has been forwarded to us. Right, lovely. Okay, Mr Newman.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everybody, chair, members, everybody here. Let's say firstly, everybody is aware or should be aware of the great difficulties facing hospitality, especially in recent years. So places have had to shut because of COVID and some of the regulations. They've faced other problems. We're now in a recession, the prices of rent and rates and electricity and so on have meant that many operators, we've read about the bigger companies that have gone bust or reduced their portfolio. We have also seen many independents go bust. So with this backdrop, this is why my client, in line with the innovation strand of the Section 182 guidance and your policy, has decided to ask for this variation to sustain the business financially so that it can survive, because it's been tough, and also to keep those jobs and people employed in their positions. Now, Chris to my right, he used to run Belgique on the same site and was indeed the area manager? General manager, sorry, for other Belgique premises. He has an exemplary trade history, both from Belgique and Bonamy. There have been no issues. So that is the first strand. The second part, as you know, this is not in a saturated area. This is not a CIZ, SPA, or whatever one may call it. So therefore, the onus is on any person or body objecting to demonstrate with evidence that to grant the variation, hopefully in full, that needs to be evidence and needs to be shown. To date, we've seen no evidence to support that. Now, not only that, but Bonamy have also been a positive force for the local community, and we're very grateful. Mr. Gooch has given up his valuable time to speak with me and also to meet with the two of us, which ironed out quite a few issues, I hope, and put to bed some rumours that were helpful. So, I would say that here we clearly see that none of the responsible authorities, each considered in law to be an expert in their own field of expertise, have submitted a representation. There was one informative from planning where they didn't appreciate that or see that a planning application had been submitted by my client. That's been addressed. We see there are no individual statements from any residents, albeit the lady who is not a shrinking violet apparently, who has provided some background evidence in support of bonhomie. I would mention that whilst you have to consider everything, policies included, law outweighs policy, and obviously anything said should be proportionate, legal, accountable and necessary. It's of note that the parish council, with their original representation, didn't have the benefit of the hindsight of seeing what those responsible authorities had to say. If I could refer you, if I may, in the pack to the first supplementary evidence. And then, so I know you know this stuff, but it's my job to remind you, I suppose. So on page 3 of bonhomie application of varied premises licence, legal and policy points, if you could go to the bottom case of Thwaites versus Wirral, and then I'll just say Mrs. Justice Black, and then if we go down to the last 4 sentences, it talks about how the decision makers must measure their own views against the evidence presented to them. And the evidence was that the responsible authorities were untroubled, and the history of the premises when operating longer hours did not substantiate the justice's fears in that case. And in her conclusion on the following page, page 4, it said, so that's the top paragraph, last 2 lines. Here it was said they proceeded without proper evidence, gave their own views excessive weight, and the police views none at all. So the police are recognised as leads for crime and disorder. Hopefully, after speaking with Mr. Gooch, I think we've narrowed it down that broadly the area of concern is, from the parish council point of view, public nuisance, as opposed to crime and disorder and protection of children. But I'll wait Mr. Gooch. So that, in short, is our submission, sir.
Thanks very much for that. Can I just clarify one thing with the housing before we move on? Don't think we've got a plan with this application. What precisely is the licensable area that's being proposed?
The plan, there hasn't been a plan submitted because it was a change of hours and not a change of any structural or anything else. The plan remains the same as it was previously.
So no change to licensable area?
It's just the hour, to extend the hours.
Yeah, okay, no, that's straightforward. Thanks very much. Do members have any questions they wish to ask? Yeah.
Thank you. Just a question regarding the timing. I take on board the points made with regards the current economic situation and pressures hospitality businesses are facing. With regards the timing extending till 10 p.m, has there been consideration given to other times? That it was obviously that's the standard time, but has there been consideration given to whether it's necessary to go to 10 p.m. or whether it be taken into consideration the location of the property? Perhaps 9 p.m. or 8 p.m. would be more suitable.
Sorry, if I may answer the first part, Councillor. So, under the licensing regime, I could be wrong, so licensing will correct me, but I didn't see in the policy that there's no framework hours for Epping Forest in the policy, as far as I saw. I take your point, but I know Chris and Chrissy have looked at reasonable times for the business, especially compared to other licensed premises in the area. And if I may, with your permission, if I can refer to Chris to further answer that question.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, just to answer your question, we just approached the 9 p.m. time because we thought that was quite reasonable. We are not looking for late trading hours. We are not looking for anything other than continuing our practice, what we're doing now, but just to try and create some more revenue for us to deal with the ever-rising costs. 10 p.m. Is the time we chose because we know I live in Baden Boyce. I live right near the premises. I live opposite the Bull, so they have a 12 o'clock licence, and I don't have any problems with that. But we're not looking to compete with the pubs. We don't want to be a bar. We're not trying to, as I say, compete with anything like that. We're just trying to continue on doing what we do successfully with longer hours.
Like I say, I'm the back office and the money girl. and one of the reasons that 9 o'clock was preferable, 10 o'clock was preferable to 9 was because you have to work out how you're going to employ people. And since we start at 8, and obviously there's prep time before that, no one can work from, or can be expected to work from 7 through. So you've got to be able to employ staff, and staff at the moment in hospitality have a very good choice of where they want to work. So if you're not offering enough hours, you're going to have a difficulty there. So since economics is the background, 10 seemed fair, and also kind of enables you to wind it down. Whereas if you start winding down at, say, 8, in a way you haven't really extended what you can offer the community and or what you can do economically.
Yeah, thank you. That's very useful. I was coming at it from a commercial perspective over policy, more so around the practicality of running the business, and was it 10 o'clock was just randomly decided, or actually that's what you've identified. So thank you for both your answers there.
Okay. Councillor Gooch, have you got any questions you'd like to ask the applicant?
I don't, Chairman. We, as Mr Newman said, we have had the opportunity to have some discussions prior to this meeting.
Okay. Just a couple of things I wanted to ask about. First of all, you're looking for the extension of hours to cover the inside and the outside. I wondered how in particular you plan to manage the outdoor aspect of the later hours, because clearly that's the area that's most likely to potentially cause noise and inconvenience to nearby residents. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Good question. In the application, there is a regime, well, offered as conditions and part of the application, setting out training. There are conditions as well on the licence. Any breach of any one would be an offence under section 136 of the Licensing Act 2003, which are specific conditions on how the outside and indeed the inside are managed. There'll be regular supervision and diligence. This is for anybody who hasn't been there, there was Belgique at a certain stage, which most people know, and then Bonhomie, which is a more, how should I put it, upmarket, sophisticated cafe, sort of place where councillors from the parish council might go, for example, myself and many others. So, sorry, but it is, and so it's well managed. It's the food is the star. We've got drink ancillary to food. It is not one of the two local pubs where the drink is arguably the star. Well, possibly that's unfair for one of them now, and please bear in mind that given the hours, we have two remaining local pubs with longer hours. We have restaurants across the way with longer hours, and we have a Tesco which does takeaways with longer hours, apart from two Indian restaurants. But there has never, ever been any complaint. There's never been any issue. Outside is you sit down at these nice tables. There are some pictures in the pack, such as they are in the supplementary bundle, second part. And it's incumbent on the operator to show due diligence, to protect their licence, and to consider any residents or indeed anybody that uses the area. So to recap, there's training, rigorous training actually, and there's experience, and there's due diligence of checking, plus there's signage and so forth to ensure that people behave in a neighbourly, calm way, and that's reflected in the conditions, sir. Does that help?
Okay, that's useful. And who are the nearest neighbours, and what measures are in place? I mean, you've mentioned some of those. What measures are in place to sort of protect their interests?
We are on the high street of Thaden Boyce, and there are some flats above us and a couple opposite. And majority of those people that live in the flats are residents, are regulars in our cafe every day. We explain to them the prospect of us applying for this licence, and they all seem quite excited about it. They know that we're just going to continue on doing what we do now, and we provide a very sophisticated clientele. We don't go for the 18, 21-year-olds at all. We are a family cafe and a sophisticated place where people can come. Like Andy said, alcohol isn't a big thing of what we do. We basically want to extend our hours, but we'd like to have the option for a glass of wine or a beer. We only do bottled beer. We don't do draft beer, so people can't come in and have pints and get loaded. It's purely a sophisticated place for people to come that don't really want to go and sit in a pub. But that is all with accompaniment of food. We, even though I have a full licence, very rarely do I even sell a bottle of wine. It's usually a glass of wine with lunch, or the odd glass of champagne for someone's breakfast when they come in for a special occasion. And also, I did liaise with all our residents upstairs, because they are a big part of our clientele. They could make or break me. So I have to have a good association with them. I even had, who I thought was going to be my biggest hurdle, a lady that lives upstairs, a Danielle. She's a regular customer, very good person that I know in the village. And she gave me her full blessing and said, if you need any support, they all wanted to come today and support me, all the residents upstairs, but I said I don't think that's needed. But also I talk to them regularly that if there is any issues regarding the main objective, public nuisance, please talk to me and I will resolve it immediately. Fortunately, we haven't had any complaints whatsoever so far in all the years of trading, whether it was Belgique or now Bonhomie.
Okay.
But I do have a good association with all the residents upstairs.
You want to add something?
There we are. Thank you. Further to that, one was, we say food is the star. The glass of wine or the glass of beer, etc., is fundamental to the financial sustainability of the business. This is imperative as part of the business plan to survive. So, going back to your earlier question, Chair, if we can go to perhaps page 79, which is Annex 2, conditions consistent with the operating schedule.
Yeah.
Okay. So don't propose to read through them all.
Good.
Thank you. However, thanks. So it sets out all the things that people are going to do, or the operator has to do to comply. So we have CCTV, so the authorities, if there's any complaints, can investigate accordingly. There are incident logs. There's, under prevention of public nuisance, on page 80, it shows notices must be displayed, customers to be requested not to stand around loudly talking in the street outside the premises, and so on and so forth. And then added to that, I don't know what else to look at it, but on the application itself, it specifies the training that will be delivered and the measures that will be implemented. It's quite rigorous to check that outside because Chris understands the value of his licence and also getting on well with his neighbours. It is a village. They do live very, very close by. They're a central part of that village, and as a business and a place to go, and also for their own personal lives, it makes sense to run a wonderful place and not to flout the law, if that helps.
Okay, thank you. Are we done for questions? Okay, Councillor Gooch, do you want to make your statement?
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to say that Bonamy has an excellent reputation in the village. They've been very cooperative with the parish council with regard to vouchers on, with our litter pick, etc. So, and indeed, the parish councillors do use this premises for their own purpose. I think you hit the nail on the head, Mr. Chairman, if I may say so, regarding the issue here is the outside use. I should start by saying that the outside area is not in the ownership or indeed within the lease of Bonamy. It's Essex County Council, it's a pavement. But also, for those who don't know the area, Thaden Boys has a dark skies policy. There are no shops or premises on that side of Forest Drive which open after 6:30 in the evening. So in the evening, it's a very quiet, dark ambience. So the issue the parish council has, and in fact it is only on the outside, we have no issue at all with the extending hours. What we're asking for is some modification of the licence and some conditions with regard to protect against potential public nuisance from the outside area. In 2019, this committee reviewed the licence for Il Baccio, which is the other side of the road. That licence was renewed, however, restrictions were put in place to stop any outside use of the area after 5:30. I think it's actually 4:30 in the evening. So there are no, although there are two restaurants on the opposite side of the road, there is no outside use of the pavements at all. So hence, that's why it's a very quiet, dark ambience in the evening. And that's pretty unique to Thaden Boys. So it would, I feel, be an anomaly, really, and a stark contrast to allow the use of the outside area when the other restaurants are not. And this is sort of the main area. I think the other issue, and I think this wouldn't be the other concern the parish council had, which I don't think would be an issue because we've heard, I think, from Mr. Newman, is that we would like to see a condition that alcohol is only served with food, but I think we've heard that is the case. So what the parish council is concerned to protect the potential against public nuisance is some sort of condition restricting the use of the pavement outside to protect against any potential public nuisance, in line with the conditions placed on other restaurants in the village.
Okay, thank you for that. Do members have any questions for the Parish Council? Okay, does the applicant have any questions for the Parish Council?
Yes, I do. I also have some comments to make, if I may. I don't know which to go with first.
Take the questions first and try and keep the comments to a minimum if you can. Yeah.
It's kind of difficult because some things are raised where I need to bring up some law. Right, councillor, good. You mentioned the potential of public nuisance. Have you commissioned as a parish council any licensing expert or any academic to demonstrate how that if the outside of Il Baccio is licensed, that Il Baccio, that's my other point, sorry, that Bonhomie, should I say, I correct myself, that Bonhomie, is there any academic study, is there any expert witness who has provided any evidence to show that if the outside of Bonhomie is used, that will add to public nuisance, yes or no?
There's obviously been no formal study which has been commissioned by the parish council. What we do are relying on previous experience of what's happened previously at Il Baccio. There has also last year been some issues just around the corner with the bagel shop where they did leave tables outside. I'm sure you'll be familiar with this. And that proved to be an area where youths actually collected. It was reported to the police, and you know, if you have an outside area in the dark, which obviously it is in Thaden, it is a natural potential attraction for use, which happened at the bagel shop. The bagel shop have now actually pack all their tables away and price them up in evening. So it's not a formal study, it's just based on previous experience and things happened in the village. And I'm not sure whether the licence officer can recall the issues with Il Baccio, but obviously enforcement action was taken against Il Baccio, the environmental people were involved, so it's based on previous experience.
Thank you. Whilst that's been submitted, we've discussed these matters. So you'll remember that I mentioned that it's each application on its own merits. Yes? Yeah. Yes, sorry, thank you. Sorry, I was just trying to clarify. In terms of Il Baccio, that's a different premises. However, you'll remember that I've said in terms of Il Baccio, different owners, that I've previously had, I don't want to get too much to discuss the other premises, but I've previously had discussions with police, with licensing and with environmental health about those conditions for Il Baccio, which is totally separate, yes. And also with the bagel shop, who aren't licensed, I believe, but they put their tables away, as indeed Bonhomie will be doing. But I think here, it's recognised in law, I put it in the pack, that the police are the recognised leads for any crime and disorder. We have the other experts as well. And none of them believe that the recognised experts in the field believe that Bonhomie, operating this outside area with a slightly different flavour, cheese balls or what have you, that will be an issue, and that's based on their history. You know, we have a professor here, and we have a very experienced...
Can I just say, you get to make your closing statement at the end?
Yeah,
of the
it's
meeting.
not quite, sir.
If you could focus on questions to the applicants at this stage, that'd be great.
All right. So, sir, would you say that the experts in the field are wrong? And if so, what evidence do you have to show that?
As I said before, the reputation of Bonhomie is excellent. And as I said before, we have no objection to the extending the licences, the outside area. I do have to say that the two, you say there's no connection at all, but in our discussions previously, Mr. Keane did say that the owner or manager of Il Baccio has invested in Bonhomie, will now be. So there, you say there's no connection at all between the two. In fact, there will be now.
Thank you. I didn't...
had a question. Sorry, there's a question at the end, I think. Is this a question? Because if it's
yes,
if it's
no, it is a question.
Yeah.
Presumably, both Il Baccio and the other restaurant there, and Bonhomie were given the chance to show. Sorry.
Can you switch your mic?
Oh, I thought I had. Oh,
I
I kept turning it off. Oh, I'm so sorry. And I've got such a loud voice if I was given the chance. Teachers. I can't, and each place was given a chance, and I agree. If one of those places broke the expectations, then the adjustment seems fair. But I don't think we can say because someone else broke the rules that we would. And I'm just speaking as a layperson, it just doesn't seem fair. And it seems to me, check, that does seem to be the argument. Someone else mucked up, so we might. And indeed, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Surely that can't be the objection. Someone else mucked up, so you can't have a chance.
Okay.
So it's pretty understandable. The other issues, Lo, to answer your question in terms of the outside space, is there's a number of logistics involved. Because it's dark, and I think in our previous discussion you said there was going to be no additional lighting outside, and you said the lighting from the exit inside would actually be enough to light the outside area. But we've talked about, in your application, about recorded music. When you, on that outside area, I believe, or perhaps you could confirm how many tables there are outside. I think there's something like 12. You couldn't accommodate 12 people outside?
Yes, we can accommodate. It's a very small area. It is all partitioned off with a fixed structure, which leads into our facade. At maximum, we can get about 12 seats out there. There's no speakers outside. There aren't any, so there's no music outside. And we have one security CCTV camera. Sorry, sir, can you put your mic on as well? Sorry, I'm very sorry. Yeah, and we have one security camera which illuminates when people come into the quadrant of our outside area, but it doesn't illuminate when people walk past on the footpath. So from the curb there's about 1.5 meters of footpath, and then there's our sectioned off, which has been, it's a fixed structure, it's been bricked, it has granite over the top, and it has lighting, very dim lighting, so people can see if they're walking. But it's a very small area. We use it now with tables and chairs out the front for the day, and it's quite a popular place for people to sit. But when we pack up at night, we bring everything in. Nothing is ever left outside.
Okay, just to remind you, we're still on the Parish Council's statement and questions on it at the moment. Everyone gets a chance to make a final comment at the end. So are there any more questions that anyone wants to make? You do, okay. Yeah.
So yes, it's kind of crossover because I think this discussion stage, and it would be helpful to iron out a few bits and bobs that are flying around. So, Councillor Gooch, you remember in our discussions that whilst I said each premise is on its own merit, this is a premises, no doubt my client's in charge of that premises. Luigi, not Il Bacio, but Luigi is an investor. We've said this. We've said his involvement. Do you recall that? Yes, sir. Thank you. So this is one where it is. I'm still struggling because we're looking at a highly impacted decision here, and where is the evidence to demonstrate that this premises, should they be granted this variation for the outside, can you just show me any evidence at all that this will cause problems? Evidence, sir.
I mean, I think that is a question you've asked before. I don't want to keep going over the same ground again and again. Are there any new questions that you've got to ask? Okay.
No.
Members, just want to check you've asked all the questions that you want to you to ask. Ms. Houghton, yeah.
Can I just make a point of clarification as well? On page 80 of the agenda, going back to, I think, a previous question or clarification, there is actually a condition 6 on the licence that says alcohol will only be served ancillary to a meal. I just needed to point that out. It's actually a condition.
Okay, no, that's a helpful thing to point out. Thanks very much. Just one question I wanted to ask, sort of following up the questions that we've had. I mean, it's not unusual for outside areas to be cleared and for use to finish there before inside areas are. I wondered whether that was a condition that the applicant would accept, clearing the outside area earlier than 10 o'clock in the evening.
Can I just say, what time did you...
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. I mean, the obvious time to look at would be, there's an existing limit of 7 p.m. on the movement of bins and rubbish outside the premises. I suppose sort of mid-evening time, but yeah, be interested to hear your views on that, or what time you thought would be appropriate.
So, just consulted with my client, just to confirm. So, we're mindful that we've asked, my client's asked for up till 10 o'clock every day, but that's the same as the closing hours. So, having spoken to my client, listening to the concerns, what we propose is my clients would agree to stop the supply of alcohol at 21:30, closing time at 2200 for the outside, and also what they do anyway is that they regularly make sure the area is clean and tidy up, so there'd be no problem with that being a condition. But just a polite reminder, the application is till 10 p.m, 2200 hours. If that helps.
Thank you for answering that. We're now on to closing statements, so the Parish Council get to give a closing statement first, and then the applicant gets to give their closing statement.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I said before, Parish Council have no issue whatsoever in terms of extending the licence till 10 o'clock, and we really do wish Bonhomie to be as successful as possible. It is the outside area which is of concern. I think we need to look at the logistics of this. If you've got people outside, okay, you're going to serve them. The door of the restaurant is going to be open and shut, open and shut. There's going to be music inside, as we said. That music is going to spill out on the outside area every time that door is opened. This is a very, I'm sure you know, Mr. Chairman, the village, it's a very quiet, dark ambience. It's a residential area. There are flats above and on the other side of the road. The existing restaurants in there have no outside use at all, so it is quiet. So there is no existing noise. The nearest place is the Bull, but the Bull is outside of, it's on Station Approach as opposed to in Forest Drive. Forest Drive, as you know, the flats above Bonhomie are 2 stories, so it's quite high. On the other side, you've got 2 stories, so the noise does actually reverberate down there. So it is the issue of public nuisance, it's the noise. I think if you were to suggest 7 o'clock, I think that would be acceptable to the parish council. But I think people on a Sunday evening outside, 10 o'clock at night, even if you're clearing up, you're going to be making noise. I don't think that's really on. It's a quiet ambience, and the parish council are quite keen to retain that sort of unique ambience which exists in the village at the moment. Thank you.
And the applicant now has their closing statement.
Thank you, sir. Firstly, the law states that what's been said, the ambience of the area, the law says there has to be evidence to prove or to demonstrate that it will be this problem, which isn't the case here. A need to look at the logistics, well, possibly not in licensing law. That might be a matter for planning. Music spilled out when the door is opened. That would be something of a responsible operator to manage with due diligence. But of course, the broader law under the Live Music Act deregulation allows till 2300 anyway. The flats above and the other side of the road, well, we haven't received any representations from any residents against this application. 7 p.m. is acceptable to the parish council, and I appreciate they're trying to do their best in terms of amenity. The Section 182 guidance, the Licensing Act say otherwise. I don't propose to read through all the conditions on the application and all the conditions here, but there's more than sufficient to demonstrate it won't be a problem. There are restaurants that operate later in this very road, in the road at the end of the road that abuts it, and there are people who go around from these other restaurants, pubs, supermarket, and so forth, to Indian restaurants, and you know, there's always some noise, but it's paying due diligence and getting that balance right. And with the track history, you know, it is abundantly clear that there have never been any issues at this premises at any time. And the sad reality is that if the applicant doesn't get as they should get, I would say respectfully, given the law and other policies, people will lose their jobs. This business will almost definitely close, which is also a part of the local plan referred to. our submission, unless there's anything I've forgotten, is that, albeit with the caveat of what we've offered, that respectfully this licence application to vary should be submitted, sir. Thank you.
Okay, well, appreciate everyone's time in attending this afternoon. We will now disappear to consider the decision in private session. You're welcome to stay here and we'll come back and give the decision when we've made it, or if you need to depart, you're welcome to, and the decision will be sent on to you. But thanks all very much. Okay, I'm about to read out the decision. Just check that the webcast is ready to go. Yeah. Okay, so the Licensing Committee considered the application for a variation of the premises licence at Bonhomie, 14 Forest Drive, Thaden Boys, in accordance with the details set out on page 47 of the agenda. The representations in support of and against the variation relating to prevention of crime and disorder and the prevention of public nuisance were also considered and taken into account. The subcommittees also considered and taken into account the 4 licensing objectives, the Council's licensing policy and the Secretary of State's guidance. During our deliberations in private session, our advisory officers gave us no additional advice. So the decision of this licensing subcommittee is the application to vary the premises licence shall be granted subject to the existing conditions on the licence, and in addition, for the prevention of public nuisance, the outside area should not be used after 2100 hours each day, and any tables and chairs used outside the premises should be cleared away each night. The licensing subcommittee, having considered the application to vary the premises licence, representation made, the existing conditions, is of the opinion the application would not have an adverse effect on the promotion of the 4 licensing objectives, namely the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance and protection of children from harm, and that existing and new conditions will uphold the 4 said objectives. The applicant and persons who made relevant representations are reminded of their right of appeal to the Magistrates' Court within 21 days of the date of the written notification of this decision. The applicant is reminded that if the conditions of the licence are breached, the matter can be reviewed by the licensing subcommittee and the premises licence can be looked at again. And although not part of the subcommittee's representation, the considerations, the applicant is reminded of the necessity to ensure planning consent for the proposed change of hours. Thank you all for your time this afternoon, and best wishes for the rest of the day.